Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special, very meaningful encounter for virtual learning in honor of Elie Wiesel, my mentor, my master, and someone whose voice spoke to an entire generation and more through the wisdom that he shared as a survivor of the Holocaust. At the age of 15, he was taken from his home in Sighet, Romania. Actually, then it was Hungary, and he was taken to his home, and they were put for a brief time in a small ghetto, and then he was taken to Birkenau. He survived along with his father, and he emerged from Buchenwald as a young boy. Afterwards, he went on to a orphanage in France with fellow child survivors, and then he went on to build for himself a life. Part of that life was that he was going to write. He was going to write as a form of justice and a form of healing. He wrote and he wrote and he wrote. And for those of you who are with us tonight, you may know the name Elie Wiesel, but we are unfortunately entering a generation where fewer and fewer people understand the impact of one man with integrity. Elie Wiesel went on to become a Nobel laureate, receiving the Peace Prize for his work for fighting for human rights. But his work for human rights was immersed in his experience of survival. We are grateful for everyone who is joining us. And again, we do thank you for those of us who are just hopping on now. As I see, we are gathered together for a unique night of exploring the voice of Elie Wiesel and the intersections of memory, pain, and purpose. And tonight's special guests are individuals who survived October 7th, who have been turned into a voice of witness, as Elie Wiesel himself was. He chose to wait 10 years before declaring his memory to the world, and he did so in the book Night, which again, some of you have read. Many may not remember, but in this powerful, thin volume, Night, he goes on to describe in detail his experiences. And tonight, we're going to be meeting our October 7th survivors in an encounter with the words of Elie Wiesel. The new survivors, as I have heard and said, and as one of our special guests tonight also has reaffirmed, that these new survivors and the role that they play are essential to the future for the Jewish people, just as Elie Wiesel was essential to the future of his generation and overcoming wave after wave of hate that he witnessed, wave after wave of anti-Semitism, anti-Israelism, anti-Zionism. And each time he would say, we thought anti-Semitism died in the gas chambers, but we were wrong, only its victims did. He writes of that place. Never shall I forget that night, the first night in camp that turned my life into one long night, 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget that smoke. Never shall I forget the small faces of the children whose bodies I saw transformed into smoke under a silent sky. Never shall I forget those flames that consumed my faith forever. Never shall I forget the nocturnal silence that deprived me for all eternity of the desire to live. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams into ashes. Never shall I forget those things, even if I were condemned to live as long as God himself. Never. And these words were memorized by an entire generation. I know them by heart. And yet now we live in a world that has quite easily forgotten. And tonight we're going to explore that voice of memory with some very special guests tonight. One of whom I'm going to introduce is Avida Baher, who is from Be'eri. Avida, please say hello. You can unmute yourselves as your turn arrives, or I can.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Avida.
Hi, I'm from Kibbutz Be'eri. I'm born in Be'eri in 1973 in Be'eri, and all my life I lived there. I just traveled a little bit in the world, so I traveled in South America and with Dana, with Dana, and after that we moved to New York for a year. And in 2000, we back to Israel and we got married and we got 4 children. And October 7, so I lost Dana and I lost Carmel, my son. He was like 15 years old in the safe room. So it's been like, we thought the safe room is really safe, but it's not so safe. It's like a trap, and around 7 o'clock at night, after they shot us around 9 o'clock in the morning, the army came and take us out from the safe room, and we start making the rehab of everything. I give it my story a little bit later about how can you deal with that situation, because I think it's the most important thing. It's not what happened to me, what can I say to myself every day in the morning, and how you go forward in your life. Because I think the Holocaust survivors, they were like the same as I think they think about the future, they think about life, and they think about, okay, it happened, but now we have to remember and we have to go forward in our life to rebuild everything again. And we are in a kibbutz Be'eri, we are the same. The 102 people are murdered in Be'eri, and our members, there's like 1,100 people live in Be'eri. But in the same day, in October 7, we were 1,400 because we just celebrate our birthday, our 77th birthday of Be'eri, because Be'eri established in 1946, 2 years before Israel state. And we're waking up at Shabbat morning around 6:30. So we hear all the rockets go above us, and we don't know nothing about it, because all the time, if there is a rocket, there's like 2 helicopters up and 1 drone. But in the same Shabbat, nothing. No drone, no helicopters. And they told us around 7 o'clock, there's a terrorist in a kibbutz, so we have to go to the safe room. And we get into the safe room, so we shield the house and everything, we lock the door, and we get into the safe room. But the safe room is like a bomb shelter. It's not really a safe room. It's a bomb shelter. So if there is a rocket exploded into the house, it means that the safe room, it's really safe. But the bomb shelter, the bomb shelter is really safe. But if there is like somebody want to help you or to kill you or to something like that, you just open the hand door, because you can't lock the safe room. And we were 4 person in the house, me and Dana. Dana, she is born from a kibbutz in the north, in Gesher Aziv. She born in 1975. It's mean like she was really afraid, because the 82 war against Lebanon, she was in the shelter over there. And she was really afraid. And we get into the safe room and we close the door, and we knew that it's our place, and what keep us alive, it's the hand door. Because all the time in the chat, in the WhatsApp chat, they told us, okay, you have to fight on the hand door. And the terrorists came to my house around 8:30, and we fight on the hand door. So, and it's like a hand fight. Me and Carmel, we holding the handle really strong, and the terrorists, they came, they tried to open the safe room. And suddenly they shot through the door. From the first shot, I didn't hurt, but Carmel, both hands goes. And you know, like, and we are, and he hurts from the first shot, and both arms goes. And in the second shot, and I hurt. So, and we were in the safe room and around, you know, in Berry, the terrorists, they got a system. So first of all, they shot you. Second, they burned the house and burned the door. So you got a heavy smoke. And third, when you jump out from the window, they kill you outside. That's a system. There's 150 houses like that. And we know that we have to fight on the hand door. So when they shot me, maybe they suck the system, because when you take the hand door up, it's been a few bars stuck in a frame. And so they didn't succeed to get into the safe room. But they burned the house and they burned everything. I think the Nukhba, they go to the other neighbors. They kill Sharabi family. They kill all the other people next to us. And you know that a heavy smoke yet, and we try to survive in the safe room, and we take some towels, we pee on the towels, and the towels with the blood it become like a glue, and we put it on the face so you can breathe through it. It's easier, but it's not good for a long time, because when you breathe, you know the heat and it become dry, and so you feel the smoke again. But around 11 o'clock, the terrorists, they decide to explode the window, because we didn't get out from the window. So they decide to explode the window, and they explode the window. And then there is one window in the safe room. It's a strong one, really strong. There's two panels, so they close to each other. And when the terrorists explode this window, one panel smashed a little bit and stuck in a frame, but the second one moved like 15 centimeters to the side. So first of all, for us, it was good, because, you know, because it's because all the smoke go out from the room. But that's the worst. That's the good thing. The worst thing, we got 3 grenades inside from this place, and the grenade fell into the sofa. There's a small sofa over there, so the grenade fell into this sofa, and the position right now, the situation in the safe room. So me and Dana, like a teaspoon on the floor. Carmel is sitting on the floor and landing on the mattress. There's a few mattress over there. And Adar, she's sitting in the side. She put a trolley on her head, and she communicate with the chat and everything, because she took my cellular phone. She got one, and she took her mom also. And she communicate, come quick to 614 on 2. That's my house. Come quick, help us. They're going to kill us and everything. And suddenly we hear 2 shots. You know, the grenade explode. And so from that, we're still alive. And suddenly we hear 2 shots. And Dana, she told me, I can't breathe. And she told me, I don't have nothing for nobody in this world. And she died. And I told Adari, mommy, she's all right. She's great. She's not suffering anymore. She's absolutely, but we have to keep Carmel alive. This is our goal and our missions, to keep him alive. And we tried to make any tourniquet on his arm, but it's very difficult, because on the arms, you know, it's very difficult to stop, because it's a different system to stop the blood over there. And we just try, and Dana, she's on the floor, she died. And around 4 o'clock, Carmel, he knew that, go out from the safe room, you're gonna stay there with Dana. He knew that. And he told me, Dad, when you bury me, please do it with my surfboard. Because he was a surfer, he doesn't care of nothing, believe me. He was 15 years old, he doesn't care. And I be mad on him at the same time. I told him, Carmel, don't even say that. The army is supposed to come really soon, wait. But a few minutes later, he got his short breath and he died. And we put him near Dana on the floor, and I'm, and I can't hold it anymore because the smoke, the wind change. It came from west. It's been like it's the smoke is not go out from the safe room. So and I pee on myself. I find any pillow, so I pee on a pillow also, and I start breathing through it. But it's not good for a long time because the smoke does not go out from the safe room, and you feel your tongues and everything. And around 7 o'clock, Adar, she told me, Dad, we're gonna hear a big bombs, and later the army is supposed to come really soon. But I'm not sure that I'm going out from the safe room. I feel that I'm going to stay there for sure. And Adar, she called 911. She called Mada immediately. My dad almost going to die. What was I supposed to do? And Mada, they told Adar, okay, open the camera. We want to see your dad. And they saw me. I'm look dead almost. Believe me, they can't help me. And around 7 o'clock, we hear a big bombs because at 6:30 p.m., a few tanks came to our neighborhood. So the tanks, they start shooting in the safe rooms, shooting in the second floor. It's a private house. There's a second floor. So because the terrorists, they take people or they kill the people in the safe room and take the safe room like a shelter for them. And it was really, really difficult to go. I'm not mad on the people and like the soldiers, because if you got closer to me, you fell. So I'm not mad on you because that's the way. Because if we are going 3 times against the enemy, they were like 400 times than us. So you can't deal with them in the same time. And around 7:15, the army came. The commander over there, he took his flashlight, he took his phone. It's a winter time. It means it's dark outside. There's no light, no electricity, nothing. So the commander over there, he took his flashlight and looked into the safe room from the window, and he told the other guy, there is a massacre here in the safe room. And he saw 2 bodies on the floor, Dana and Carmel. He saw me. I look like a body, believe me. And he saw Adar. She's sitting on the side, and she put a trolley on her head, and she didn't wear any shirts because she tried to make a tourniquet to herself, because she also wounded in the safe room from the grenade, because the grenade are explode over there, and she helped him to open the window, and 2 soldiers get into the safe room, check the body and left them there. They didn't take them because they left them there right now, and they took me out from the window, and we start moving to Soroka Hospital. And so we arrived to Soroka Hospital. It's almost 9 o'clock in the evening, and it's a big mess because you don't know nothing about the area, you don't know nothing about the Nova, the party, and you don't know nothing about all the things. You know that it's your problem, it's the only problem, it's Be'eri problem, it's only Be'eri problem. You don't know nothing about this area. And we came to the hospital in Soroka. They took me immediately to the x-ray, and then they tried to connect my right leg. In the same day, there's a full of trolley with legs and arms, because the soldier, they are fighting in the morning, they wounded over there, and they put a tourniquet on her legs, on their arms, and they took and the army took them to the hospital just at night. And after 2 hours, you can amputate the legs or the arms. You can't hold it anymore. And we waking up at Sunday morning, in the vascular place, and they told me, okay, the legs become warm, but everything is die over there. So for me, it was really, really difficult because you can lose your wife, you can lose your son, but you know right now you start lost yourself a little bit. And so I'm signed on my operations to amputate my right leg. And you know, the doctors, they saw that the livers and the tongues and everything is collapsing in your body, because if something bad in your body, the blood and everything, the body start poisoning himself. And so the doctors, they want to move everything with what's dying in your body. So when I start my rehab, and I spend like a month in Soroka Hospital, me and Nadar together, and then we moved to Sheba in Ramat Gan, and I'm for 5 months, and Nadar for 3 months more, and that's it.
And since then, you've been living displaced from home still.
Yeah, that's right. We are in Hatzerim, and we spend time because we have to rebuild the kibbutz
Well,
again.
first of all, thank you, Avidah, for sharing your story. I know that, as I mentioned, when it came to Elie Wiesel, he, like most survivors, did not speak so soon after. They did not have the strength, they did not have the words. And the fact that you're able to describe it as you did and to put words to the experience, it's very meaningful for all of us who are learning and listening with you. So thank you for sharing and being with us tonight, and for your resilience, your resolve. I know that you're very interested in that idea of rebuilding. I know that we see that as an example of your survival. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
One of our other guests tonight is Adele Raymer, who is from Nirim, a name that many people are familiar with, Life on the Border with Gaza, famous Facebook group that many of us have been learning from for years, and since she started this initiative to help diaspora Jews be more aware of what life is like living on the border of Gaza. It is a pleasure, Adele, to have you with us. And I really want to thank you all for giving of yourselves and sharing a small excerpt of your story, because it gives us a window as we then will carry it on. And of course, I read from Elie Wiesel, and what does he never forget? And Avidah, it's a testimony none of us will ever forget, what you've just shared with us. And Adele, maybe you could share with us a little bit about you and your experience on October 7th and since.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to all those who've joined us tonight. You said that Elie Wiesel didn't have the strength or the to start talking?
The words, yes.
So he didn't have social media either. He didn't have capabilities that we have today. And so we do. And when October 7th happened, when it just began, because I am so used to talking on Facebook and talking to the world, I've been dealing with public diplomacy as a strange hobby since 2012, transited it in many different ways. October 7th, early in the morning, found me sitting on the floor of my safe room. I live on Kibbutz Nirim, which is about a mile away from the Gaza border. And we were the first kibbutz to be entered by terrorists, although we didn't actually know what was going on. But I found myself on the floor of my safe room doing a Facebook Live as it was unfolding, as it was happening, because I am so aware of how important it is to get word out, to talk to people, to tell people what's really happening now. And that's why I started the Life on the Border Facebook, because there's so much misinformation out there. And even the next day already, the blood hadn't dried when people were already denying that it happened, denying that people experienced what Avida and his family experienced. So this is what I do, and I talk every chance I get. I've been abroad 7 times since October 7th, talking in all different countries and forums, just to get word out. So my story, thank God, is nowhere near as dramatic as Abida's. The terrorists started entering my house, but then got called away. I'll never know why, but my son heard the Arab speaking in Arabic. We heard Arabic outside, we heard shooting outside, and my son heard somebody saying after we heard the windows breaking, the slats breaking on the window, somebody saying in Arabic, "Come here." So we didn't know what that was, but we waited, and they moved on. They did not come back. My community lost 5 people, were kidnapped, 5 people were slaughtered. 3 soldiers were slaughtered and kidnapped that morning on the kibbutz when they came to us about 6:45 in the morning. We didn't even know about that at the time. It took weeks for us to find out about that. The 3 women who were kidnapped were released in November 2023, and the 2 men, Nadav and Yagev, who I watched grow up in my kibbutz. We're a small kibbutz. They were executed in the Hamas tunnels in February 2014. And I was born in the States, as you can probably hear. And I made Aliyah in 1973 because I had just been in Israel the year before, and October 73, the Yom Kippur War broke out. And I said, well, what am I doing in the States? Israel needs me. So I made Aliyah in light of a war. And my Zionism is something that leads me, that is a driving force for me. It pains me that Zionism has become a 4-letter word in some circles. And I fight against that anywhere I can, as much as I can, and proudly state that I am a Zionist. So I don't know if there's anything. I mean, we were in the safe room for 11 hours, and then we were evacuated within the kibbutz and displaced. We were taken October 8th. We were driven out of the kibbutz through an active war zone with incoming rockets. When we have an incoming rocket, we have 0 to 10 seconds to get to someplace safe. We drove through a war zone with burning cars on the side of the road and charred bodies, and until we got to Eilat. We were in Eilat as a kibbutz, evacuated to Eilat for 3.5 months. And then after that, as a kibbutz, most of us got apartments in Beersheba, which is a 40-minute drive away. And very early on, it was clear to us that we needed to be close to home so that people who work here can work here. We're an agriculturally based community. In fact, our dairy was the first dairy that was up and milking, even while there were still terrorists running rampant. October 8th already, they were milking the cows. And we have fields, and the fields need to be tended to. And so people have been back working since the
Right away.
of the
Right
war.
away.
Right
Yeah.
away. And I've been coming back to the kibbutz since late October to take people around, to take journalists around and potential donors. And we were very, very tunnel visioned on the fact that we have to rebuild and we have to come back home as soon as possible, because the longer it takes, the harder it will be to preserve community. And community builds resilience, and resilience is the name of the game here. So slowly but surely, people started coming back. All of our burnt houses, 35 houses were taken down, and they're already in the process of being rebuilt. And all of the houses were fixed and painted, and the landscaping since January 2024, the landscaping committee the workers have been back here mowing the lawns and planting and making it look like our 95% heaven again, which is what we always called the place. We were told that we would be coming back eventually, at first we were told that we would be coming back in December 2024, and that was pushed off to February 2025. And April, we were refugees in our own land, which is in itself a very challenging situation. You can't plan ahead. You don't know where you're going to be next week. You don't know if they're going to all of a sudden say, okay, that's it, we're done, you can go home now. You just don't know. And on top of the layers of trauma that people experienced living through and surviving through October 7th and losing so many people on October 7th. And in my talks, I always say I lost more people that I knew on October 7th than I can even count, because I was a teacher in our school for 38 years. So while I was on one of the trips, one of the people who was with me said, try to count. So I made a list, and I filled all of these pages with names of people who I knew personally, people who were close friends, people who were neighbors, people who were in my yoga class, people who I'd taught. They'd been my students. They were students' parents. All these people had been either kidnapped or murdered on that day. So on top of all of that trauma, you have to also find not only the wherewithal to help the families of your friends and relatives who've lost their nearest and dearest, but also, and also at the same time fighting to get our hostages back, because 660 days in, we still have 50 hostages in there. So all of this at the same time, while we're still fighting to keep our community together and to come back home. So the date for coming back home was June 2025. And my community decided, that's it, we're drawing the line. All of the summer activities for the children, the summer frameworks would be in Nirim, because we didn't have any place to do it in Beersheba. And that was the plan, for people to come back at the end of June. We have the apartments until the end of August. We were told that there's no security issue that is preventing us from coming back home, although the explosions here at times are almost unbearable, especially when they happen in the middle of the night. And it wakes you up, and it's very hard to fall back asleep after that. But when the Iranians started shooting their ballistic missiles in the middle of June, all of a sudden, Nirim became the safe place to be. So all of these families who hadn't planned on coming back quite yet found themselves in Beersheba with ballistic missiles exploding there. And that started on Friday, Saturday. They were already back home. Our pool was already full of children and people very quickly reacclimated to being back home. So this is where we are now. Not everybody's come home. Not everybody will be coming home. I almost lost my 3 grandchildren, 3 of my 8 delicious grandchildren that day, but the 3 who lived here, Zivraz and Yuval, were in the safe room with their dad, who had a weapon with him because he was one of the first responders. And when the terrorists entered his house, he told my grandchildren, hide yourselves under the blanket. You're going to hear a loud noise. but don't come out from under the blanket no matter what. He waited with his gun until he saw the handle starting to move. He kicked open the door and shot the terrorist right in front of the safe room door. He started going after another two that were in the house, realized that there were many highly armed terrorists outside, that he didn't stand a chance. So he went back into the house, got down on one knee, lifted up his gun, and waited. The next person to come to the room was going to get a bullet. So I almost lost those three
Your
children.
world.
My daughter was on her own. They're separated, she and her ex, on her own in her house, hiding under her bed. You know, when I was a child growing up in New York, I used to watch Hogan's Heroes. I don't know if you remember, any of you remember that program about Nazi Germany. It was a satire program. And I used to play as a child, where would I hide if the Nazis came to get me? Under the bed, behind the door. Never in my life did I dream that I would be living in my country, in my kibbutz, in my home, hiding from the Nazis of 2023, but that's what we were all doing. So I am back. I am home, because only here I feel I can breathe. But not everybody deals with trauma the same way. My daughter has not been back here since October 7th. And she will not be moving back here. And my 3 grandchildren have been here a few times, but my granddaughter, my eldest granddaughter, one of the ones I almost lost that day, as we were starting this Zoom, wrote to me, and I asked her if she's coming to Nirim this week. And she said, I won't be back till there's a ceasefire. And I said, fine. Each person has to deal with the trauma as they can, and we need the patience, because everybody needs their time and their space to heal. And there are people who will never totally heal.
That's right.
But I can tell you how can I deal with that trauma, because, you know, I think it's really important. You know, my story, there's like hundreds of stories like that. You know, in the same as the Holocaust, you know, the people that live in the Holocaust, they are the same stories, and there are bad, really, really bad stories. So just in Be'eri, there are 102 people are murdered in Be'eri, like 30 hostages. But I think the most important thing, it's not about a story. It's about how you go forward in your life. What you can say to you, and what can I say to myself every day in the morning, to run all the time in your life, and you have to rebuild your future. That's what I think is the resilience and then the strength that we got. And I tell you, the 4th thing you have to know about this world and about this life, it's not about the world, about the life. I tell you, you have to know, first of all, the one who dies is not coming back. It means they're not suffering anymore. Dana and Carmel, they're not suffering anymore. They're all right. They move. Where are they going? I don't know exactly where they're going. I don't believe in the second word. I don't know where, but they move. And I'm sure that they wish us a great life. So that's for sure. So I have to do it. And the second things you have to know, it's the time. You know that we all think about the future. We think that the time is no end. But Adar, she's 13. She saw her mom and her brother on the floor, and she told me, Dad, don't leave me alone. She know that the time here, it's really done. It's stopped, it's done. But I tell you, for you something, because, you know, we all think that we're going to abroad the next week or the next year, and we're doing like relocation in the next few years, and we're doing for a vacation and whatever. But we think that the time is no end, but we got end. So I don't care that the time is no end. So I tell you something for yourself, never and never say tomorrow. Do whatever you want to do right now, because you never know what it's going to be tomorrow. So the time is no end, but we got end. So Never say tomorrow. In your business, you can say tomorrow. But in your private life, never say tomorrow. Do whatever you want to do. And you know that in my family, we have two hobbies. First hobby, we're doing skiing in Europe every year. And the second hobby, we're going to a great restaurant, the best one. And I think to myself, why this is our hobbies? And I tell you why. Because when I say to the children, to Dana, okay, we're going skiing, everybody's coming. Nobody tell me, okay, Dad, we don't want to come to skiing or something like that. They all coming. And when I told them, okay, we're going to a great restaurant, they all also coming. So it's mean like, it's nothing about the beer and the snow and nothing about the food. I just bought a week in Austria with my family. It's about time. I only bought a time. And also in a great restaurant, I only bought like 3 hours on 2 bottles of champagne. That's it. It's nothing about the food. It's nothing about the snow. It's about time. And believe me, I can buy a lot of time. But you never take the time back. And the third thing, after a month in the hospital, I got my new ID card, the new one. And there's a widow under, and in the paper, the side, there's a blue paper, and the children on it, there's Carmel Zal. It means it's breathing, it's shchol, we call it in Hebrew. So
bereaved in English.
Breathing. And this word, it's really, 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 you don't know exactly what is that. And I ask many people who came to visit me in the hospital, I ask them, okay, can you even tell me what is shchol and what is breathing for you? Can you tell me, describe me that? And all the people, they told me a bad thing, like a big scale on my back, or something like a black spot in my heart, or something like that. And believe me, a breathing, it's only missing. It's nothing. I miss Dana and Carmel every day, all day. It's only missing. So I miss them all my life, for sure. And the third thing, like I waking up at the fourth thing, so it's not the third, it's the fourth thing. I waking up at Sunday morning in the hospital. Next to my bed, there is a rabbi. The rabbi, he's like Yaman. He was a Yaman. He's 60 years old. He's a religious one. And we are 2 beds in a room. And in the hospital, every day is look the same. The nurse came around 6:30 in the morning. They wake you up. They clean you a little bit. They take your bandage off. And the doctor came around 7 o'clock. They say for 5 minutes what to do. And the nurse closed everything around 8 o'clock. So you think the 8 o'clock in the morning is the end of the day, but just start. And I saw this rabbi, Eliyahu, his name, every day when the nurse took his bandage off, he got missiles, he injured in the temple in Tivot. So, and when the nurse took his bandage off, every day he's crying, screaming, and say thanks for God. And I told him, Eliyahu, are you crazy? There is no God. Look what happened to us. He kicked our ass. Nothing over there. And after 5 days next to him, I know the best lesson in my life for sure. And I tell you, it's, when you say thank you, because it's nothing about, it's about to say thank you about something. It's nothing about God and religious belief. It's nothing. And when you say thank you for something, for somebody, it doesn't matter. You can say thank you for the ducks, for the trees, for your cellular phone. It doesn't matter who you say thank you for him. You only see the full half cup of water. That's it. It means you go forward in your life. And believe me, I'm not believing God, but I can say thank you to Dana, to my wife. About 32 years I spent with her. So I met her, she was 17 in Gesher Aziv in the north. So I can say thank you for her about this time because, sometimes you open the news at night, you saw there was a wife, she passed the road, and she died. And I got my wife for 32 years. I got everything. Believe me, I got everything. And I can say, can say also thank you to Carmel, about 15 years, only 15 years. You know why? I got a great son. He moved. But I tell you, in the hospital where the children place, the children, they don't pass 2 years. I saw all of this. Believe me, I saw everything in the hospital. So I can say thank you also to Carmel, about 15 years. I got everything. I got a great son. And if you take all the four things together, believe me, so first of all, they're not suffering anymore. They wish her a great life. I never say tomorrow, never. Adar, she was in Sri Lanka. She's doing everything, believe me. And I say thank you for them. And the only thing is left to put two pictures on the shelf and to go forward in your life to rebuild everything again. That's what I think. And we have to do it. And we do it. I work for it. Don't worry.
Well, we are quite lucky to have both of you out there sharing your voices and sharing your stories with the world. We are grateful that you're able to have found your words. As I mentioned, that was one of the things that Elie and most survivors of the Holocaust never, you're right, Adele, without the social media access, but also nobody was interested in listening. And that was a very crucial element. And for a little while, people were interested in listening to the stories of October 7th. And unfortunately, now that's been replaced by a lot of indifference. I found myself preparing for tonight's program by researching very obscure references, quotes of Professor Wiesel. And I found something that actually, Adele, you mentioned you moved right, inspired by the Yom Kippur War, and so too was Elie. And he writes, and as we here continue in Israel to cope with the trauma effects of October 7th, both on you, the survivors, and the entire society, but also the entirety of the Jewish people around the world, we are also grasping Avidah for time that we can appreciate, time of peace. And what does he write? What Elie Wiesel had called then was a new phenomenon. When Israel's history coincides with the history of diaspora Jews, and we're facing a rise of anti-Semitism around the world, and that history, as he said, was all strands were intertwined. Our challenge is but a mirror image of a greater, more profound challenge that springs from the essence of the existence of the Jewish people, that there's something that brings us all together. He goes on to write, and he actually is directing this at young people who are fighting anti-Semitism. This was in 1973 that he's writing this. You give us the signal, the people who are fighting and surviving those face-to-face battles. You show us the way. You are the catalyst, and your impact on our communal existence as the Jewish nation and as the as humanity is a fact nobody can challenge. When it comes to you, the survivors, nobody should be indifferent. Militants of the old or those of the new left, intellectuals, believers and non-believers, should be united to support your aspirations, the appeal of your cause as the survivors, as witnesses to the hate should be felt everywhere. On campuses, they should proclaim their solidarity with you. No movement should be as popular, no followers as devoted as those who are your followers, your witnesses to your survival. He goes on, though, to say, or rather to ask, how is one to make this happen when young people today don't believe in or care about our truth? Now, I remind you, this was written many years ago. It is as if it is being written today, where there are on campuses and in communities and in even civil society everywhere, those who no longer sympathize with the survivors of October 7th. There are those who turn a deaf ear And there are those who really aren't interested in understanding. And I'm going to continue with Elie Wiesel's words. You represent to them the awakening of conscience. Your revolt against your trauma and pain will assert our collective right to inherit. Now, I have a new guest, another guest with us today, who is Elie Wiesel, and she has dedicated herself since October 7th to pursuing justice as a type of healing, and herself what I call a fellow Wieselian thinker, somebody who found their inspiration through the words and the commitment and the passion of Elie Wiesel. And I'm so blessed that she and I became connected through this program and gave us an opportunity to amplify the voice and the echo of Elie Wiesel. So I turn, Yael, this question to you, that these survivors who open their wounds and speak, that they are the awakening of conscience, their revolt against their trauma, that this is ours to inherit. And we have a world who doesn't understand. And what was his question? How is one to make this happen when people are not interested in truth? What would be your response? And welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Ilana. So Dr. Ilana Heidman, I'm here thanks to you, and thanks to Esti, who is with us too as well. I'm actually connected to several people here, Avida and Adele. I'm so touched by your testimony. Avida, I had the great honor of meeting you in person. We won't say where, but in the home of another survivor. You speak about, yes, the truth and how do we make people listen to the truth and so forth. It's a very big challenge. And also, who do we want to hear us? It's a very big challenge. So for 21 years, I've been busy with atrocities. I've been working on devoting my work, so it's a weird stream of work, to accountability and justice for atrocities, whether they are committed in Sudan, Darfur, or Ukraine today, or Rwanda, or former Yugoslavia. And I tell you, it's a very long journey for justice. But I can also say that between Nuremberg trials for the Holocaust and the Yugoslavian trials, the tribunal, there was no real expectation of justice and no real expectation that the world will be interested in listening to the truth. I can also tell you that Israeli society was a different society before and after the Eichmann trials. And I also people ask me, why are you here? And how did you come to this, devoting your professional life? And also it's a personal sort of mission, justice and truth for survivors, for victims who haven't survived and who can't speak anymore, and who it is our sort of mission to speak in their name and in their memory. And so thank you, Ilana, for inviting me, and for Avida and Adele for giving your personal stories for this live testimony in this evening of memory, pain, and purpose. And is truth actually our purpose? So I'd like to say very generally that I think we talk about justice as healing. I chose justice as healing, but other people can choose another way. And I think the very special thing about what we're doing here, even in this space that Ilana, you created, is actually a space. The first thing in everything we do about October 7 and about other atrocities, the Holocaust and memory, is first of all to name the harm. And that's part of the difficulty. And in one way, it's a harm that's bigger than any of us. And in the other way, this harm is made out of so many universes. And today we've seen just a window of Avida, your harm, the harm that you're living and you lived, as well as resilience, which you're very busy at. And I just want it's amazing. Avida, אתה ממש נוגע לליבי. And Adele, you've given us a peek. You know, it's a great privilege to hear your voice and to see your voice, and the fear for your grandchildren and the fear for your daughter and for your brave, let's say, former son-in-law, but the father of your grandchildren. And of course, we're all connected here. So the first thing is to understand the harm. And I think one of the universal harms in these situations is the lack of control, the loss of control over lives and suffering, the people we can't help, and what other people did to us. And that's part of the harm. So if I have to say what is the harm of October 7, I'll say it's triple, it's threefold. It's the actual attack, and I won't actually explain it here, but there are people here who've witnessed this harm on their flesh. So it's the actual attack and the violence. The second harm is, Adele, what you say, the blood wasn't dry and there was already denial. So that's a second harm. It's a second violation. And I have to say the third harm is actually a cause of this denial. It is the overexposure that so many people have experienced, the direct victims, since October 7. Overexposure because they've lost control of their own stories, their personal stories. Overexposure because there is this cruel and vicious dilemma that is imposed on us by the perpetrators, by their accomplices, and by the deniers, of how do we vindicate the truth? How do we take back the truth? How do we take back control? And that's part of the harm. And so this cruelty, this double cruelty of committing the violence, and then the systematic, because you said, Adele, this is systematic. Avida, you said systematic in Be'eri. There was a modus operandi. There was there was a system. 150 houses where the three things happened. There was shooting, burning, and then you shoot or kidnap or take hostage the person who was outside. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this today, I had this amazing talk with someone. You know, the third harm is the overexposure. And part of what I do, I have the life privilege of today representing 408 survivors who have chosen the legal action that we do, justice in the name of the victims and survivors, and accountability against the perpetrators, against the accomplices, to end impunity. So to provide an authoritative, you cannot deny it anymore. Nuremberg, there's still Holocaust deniers. Elie Wiesel had to speak because the Holocaust deniers, you know, the Nuremberg wasn't enough. Eichmann wasn't enough. However, because there is an authoritative record of the truth, then those who are hallucinating are the deniers and not the survivors and not the society, because the harm is private, but it's also collective. And therefore the response, if you identify the harm, the first thing to do is identify the harm. And that in itself is a long journey. Then you understand what the response needs to be and what I can offer. I didn't invent it. I'm really standing on the you know, sort of shoulders of giants, is offer justice as a universal language in the name of universal values, in the name of our universal humanity. And what I demand for myself, for my society, for the people, you in the front line who were directly harmed. You were stripped of everything, maybe, you know, stripped of everything, but the fact that you're alive and you're choosing life again and again and again and every morning, and you're rebuilding, so nobody can take that away from you. So I vindicate the truth for also, especially, first of all, for the victims, the direct victims, the survivors, and also those who didn't survive.
You know, truth is a subjective issue today. And justice, unfortunately, has also become, it's evading singular definition, much like the term genocide, much like the term starvation, much like the use of linguistics today to allow denial to seep in ways we couldn't even imagine certainly not on October 7th and now 22 months later. I think that it's essential for us sometimes to, yes, draw the connections between the past Jewish experience and the current one. There's been an unfortunate overlap in whether or not October 7th was like the Holocaust. And sometimes I have to, restrain myself a little bit by making sure that we are sensitive to both those who desire to create that parallel and those who recognize that it is unjust because the Holocaust was on October 7th every single day in a different way, again and again and again and again and again for over 6 to 8 years, depending on how you scale it. So this brings us to Avidai, your question of time. Time in terms of how we pursue justice, pursue truth, encourage a world to dig deeper. And what were Elie Wiesel's words? He writes at one point, who speaks of consolation? We may have been wrong to view our survival as even a supreme blessing. If we have not succeeded in changing mankind, who can ever succeed? Tell me, son, he goes on to ask, who will change man? Who will save him from himself? Tell me, son, who will speak on his behalf? And who will speak for me? Elie Wiesel's words echoed to decade after decade of learners and readers. And in today's society where people say his voice doesn't matter anymore, it is about that Holocaust, and we're facing such different realities. We also have to remind ourselves that he spoke to the current realities, and he even addressed the conflict of the Yom Kippur War in those days. He was, of course, a journalist for Yediot Ahronot for many years before he went on, and as a journalist, he was in New York. He was hit by a cab, and he found himself in a full body cast, alone, completely uncertain as to his future, with no one that he knew. And at that time, believing he was the sole survivor of his family. And there he was in New York, and he ended up becoming an American citizen thanks to the help of the organizations who gave him that hope. And both Adele and Avita, you have mentioned the idea that this was happening in our soil, in our borders, in our own state. How could this? Nobody could have imagined it. But then Elie Wiesel addresses something that maybe could be one of our closing points for tonight for you to respond to, where he says, these are the choices we do not want. We want neither to humiliate the enemy nor to allow him to humiliate us. We want neither to kill nor to be killed. All we want is to live and to uphold the sanctity of life. All we want is to create peace and create in peace and bear witness that man is not necessarily man's enemy and that every war is senseless, but that the solution lies not in radical compassion, but is in compassion that is possible. All we want is peace, Elie Wiesel writes. And yet, here we go again. Again, there is war, and we, our nation, we abhor war. So how can one not be sad today? How can one be Jewish in this Gentile world that refuses to believe our truth and not succumb to our despair? There are objective questions we must face that engender our sadness and translate it into questions that push us further. How is it possible? Why was Israel not more prepared? Why weren't we better equipped to handle the situation? Israel is going through a kind of catharsis. This is written in 1973. Its soul searching is deep and thorough and reaches into all spheres of society. The war has affected everybody. The change is deeper than ever. I do not know, nor do I pretend to know, but the world around us is too corrupt and insensitive to an event that as survivors we thought would continue to haunt Jews forever, if only to save them from indifference and complacency. These words echo to us today. I want to invite you to share your closing response to Elie Wiesel's echo. I'm only going to go grab my cord because my battery is dying. So please, let us hear your response to Elie Wiesel.
So until Ilana comes back, I just want to respond to what Yael said. My
Adele,
son and
I have to leave the conversation. So thank you a lot about everything. And so
I'm an American citizen. I'm a dual citizen, as are my son, who was visiting me that day, and my daughter. And the three of us are participating in cases in order to get justice, in order to, I don't think we're going to see any money for it ever, but that's not the point. The point is making our voices heard, making the objection to the terrorism of Iran and its proxies. So we are active in that. And I just wanted to say that I've come back to Nirim. I'm living here, and my goal, I do talk about tomorrow. It's a different type of tomorrow than I understand what Avida was meaning, that not to postpone things for tomorrow, but I do plan tomorrow, and I do plan life in this community, living and living well, because that is my healing, that is my victory, and that is my revenge.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a beautiful, beautiful message for everyone to hear. And I heard from somebody actually in one of my meetings, the other day, they said they felt like it's actually easier to find strength if you're here in Israel. They were here for many months volunteering, and they went back to America, and they're struggling very much with having to be in the diaspora and to feel like their time is limited and there's so much uncertainty, and they don't have a lot of sources of strength and resilience and hope. So what would Adele, who you have been a voice for so many around the world for years and years, what's your message to those who are feeling like almost desperate for the type of strength and resilience that they feel you have in spite of everything that you've been through?
Come home. Just come home.
Just come home.
No,
We're gonna
and can't come home because not everybody can come home. Come home to your community, wherever you are. Embrace your Jewishness, embrace your Jewish community, and embrace Israel. And if you can, come home. I believe it's the only place where Jews can live and thrive and have a tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that there's a real hesitation on the part, just as there was in previous generations. There's always going to be the hesitation, and we want to always be encouraging people to consider it. I think of the towns that are on the southern Negev, the western Negev border, and I think of the authenticity of the experience of living and working the land. And I think that most diaspora families would never consider moving to what they consider the outskirts and so far away. And I think these are also important ideas that we can plant as seeds in the hearts and minds of the Jews around the world who are looking for answers, that they're not able to find sources of strength where they live. I think that Adele, you and your community and the communities that I've met, and I've also worked with many communities in the North who were displaced for, I met with a family last month who had just gotten home a week earlier. And, nobody realizes, as you mentioned, being a refugee in our own country. And at the end of the day, as Avida reminded us, we have to be so grateful, eternally grateful for that ability to say we have a state. Yes, as and Elie Wiesel goes on in one of his writings, yes, there are mistakes made. It's our job to hold ourselves accountable and hold the world accountable for those mistakes. And that, Yael, that's where your work comes in as fundamental. I know that there were several others. I want to mention several other survivors of October 7th who wanted to join us tonight, But last minute, they felt that either they wanted to join quietly and privately, so they, didn't want to have their name and face shown. And there were those who said, you know what, it's too much for me. I'm really not capable today. And we have to recognize that's all a part of this experience. And even those around the world who wish they could have that Israel strong, power and passion and resilience. And there are people who wish that they could understand more deeply what more they can do, even if they choose not to make Aliyah. And so, Yael, you found justice, is your path for action. Let's say that there's someone out there and it's not. I'm even going to call out, if she's willing to speak, is she still here? One of my students who I mentor is a part, and who works with, she's going to be a senior in high school, and she is inspiring to action people in her community in Westchester, New York. So Yael, what would be your advice? How do we help those in the diaspora pursue something that helps them feel Elie's echo, as you have and as I have, and as we hope we've been able to transmit a little tonight?
Thank you. Thank you, Ilana. So for me, I don't think there's one answer fits all. But what I do find is no matter where you are, whether you're in Israel, whether you're in diaspora, whether you're Jewish, whether you're from any other confession, whether you don't have this, any identity, there is something that is very universal that brings us all together. And I think children know it. I think sometimes when we grow up, we forget it. But there's Elie Wiesel. He was my teacher, not as actively and closely as Ilana. You really are his active student, and you're living on his legacy. And I think, if I may, he would be so proud of you for doing what you're doing today. So it's amazing. I had the great privilege to meet him once in person in 2004 at the United Nations when I was making my first steps, my first sort of professional steps out of studying, out of being a student of international law and a student of international diplomacy. And I was at the UN and I was fulfilling this dream. I wanted to see what it is, this United Nations body. Israel is a state among nations, sitting among other nations. This ideal, I believe in it. I actually do. And this United Nations Charter saying we are all brought together by international human rights. This is our universal message. And so for me, it's not just one message, and it's also for the victims here that I say this. I spoke this morning with a survivor of so much, a survivor of captivity, a survivor of losing her husband and her sister, a survivor of having her daughter and her grandchildren hostage, a survivor who had to come out free, survive, suddenly have a different, understand everyone she lost. Adele, your notebook is such a painful testimony of that, of the community, and also in her personal life. This survivor I have the life privilege to represent. And having her, she was liberated, and then she had to take care of her daughter and her grandchildren because her son-in-law was still in captivity until not so long ago. So this tremendous story, this tremendous path, her grandchildren embraced their father only 200, 300, 400 days after they were released from captivity. There are so many stories, this mosaic of stories, this collective story and this puzzle building story, and each story is a person, each story is a universe. For me, the message is one, universal, it brings us all together, and the other, it's personal. Choose the path that does you well, that helps you, provide for Adele your wish, your prayer, which is live well. And each person finds a different response to what does it mean to live well. Adele, to you, I pray that you enjoy a community, because I think this is the real important thing for you. And it really vibrates. It really, that's your message. When you speak of who you are individually, but also as a community, The fact that you showed us we're not just victims on October 7 and survivors, we're also farmers, we're agricultural people. The milking store, on the 8th of October, that's identity, that's community. And each person, I spoke to bereaved parents from London. They lost their hope, their son, they have another child who was handicapped. This son was their only hope to be grandchildren, and he was murdered in
Jake,
Nova.
Jake,
Yes, I exactly. I don't name them, but of course I'm happy you know them, and I don't mean to reveal but these are people, amazing people, and they have their story, of what they want to be remembered. And some people, Shani Luke's mother, I say that I represent her because her journey is to changing the memory of her slaughtered daughter into some other image, into the image of beauty that her daughter is. Others,
Mhm.
they have another path. They have another path of silence or of privacy, and that's okay. So for me,
Wow.
what I pray to everyone is that each finds their own path so that our collective can be healthier.
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I have to pop out. Thank you so much for having me here. It has been an honor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Adele.
Adele. And please, you can learn more from Adele by following Life on the Gaza Border Facebook group. And I believe you do a webinar. You're about to sign off for that, aren't you?
Yeah, that
Right?
5 minutes we start. So I
All
gotta
right. Well, you have
Good
a
luck.
good luck and thank you and stay strong. We're going to end tonight's program with some very poignant words of Elie Wiesel, that we must continue to raise our voices as loudly as we can, that our enemies be forced to release every single one of those they hold in the captivity of their social acceptance of hate. It should have been yesterday. Today would be fine. Tomorrow is late. The day after, unacceptable. We are all praying for the return of our hostages and the return of peace to our borders. And I repeat again that Elie Wiesel's words, we must resolve that our anguish and our pain will not drag us into pits of despair, into cesspools of resentment or cauldrons of hate. We must use this opportunity to reorient our people's compass towards all that we have stood for centuries. We must recommit to building our world on the foundation of our core values. We lift up the downtrodden, protect the vulnerable, welcome the stranger, pursue justice, love our neighbor, and not stand idly by in our need for collective work for peace. To forget the dead is akin to killing them twice.
Wow.
Our memory serves as their future, and our lessons and our continued learning together, this serves as a path for us to learn how we can measure time, how we can do more with our time, how we can seek the community that Adele represents. I think there are Jews everywhere, including in Israel, where we wish we felt the sense of community that we witnessed in those communities that were targeted on October 7th. And the communities, of course, that continue to get targeted in Israel and everywhere around the world. Our voices must become stronger. So I close by actually reminding you that Elie Wiesel implored the world to do more. He spoke truth to power and powerful individuals. We are maybe nobodies and armchair diplomats and doing what we can on social media, but every word we speak has power, and we need more people to be doing more. So as Elie Wiesel's voice echoes in our soul and in our hearts now, may we please remember we must turn it into purpose and find ways of action. And we can and will survive this too. We will carry his memory with us. We will carry the memory of all the victims of October 7th today and forever. And we will continue our learning together. So please make sure you come and join us at israelforever.org. Follow us on all the different platforms so that you can stay inspired every day. And if you're looking for a program for your community, something interactive and inspirational, now is the time. Do not rely on your legacy organizations alone. Do not rely on the structure of community as you think it has been built where you live. Create the community and the unity that we want to see. How apropos that we are actually having this in the 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av, when, you know, we know that the temple was destroyed because of the free, baseless hatred that ran rampant amongst the Jewish people. We must seek sources for unity. We must seek ways that we can do more. Find your path, find your voice, because Israel's truth is stronger than any lie, and we need you a part of telling it. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Those of you who are silent out there, anonymous, you didn't want your names and faces here, we feel you. Those of you who are listening from home in your convenience, we're with you. The power is in each one of us, and we carry it from the leaders of the past that we are able to learn from. Carry your lessons onward. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Yael. And please do come back. Yael and I are going to be doing a very exclusive program on justice and the systems that she has been up against, what others can learn from who are looking to be involved in various aspects of bringing justice. And sometimes it is really about even in our own enclaves and in our own spaces. So we're going to talk about that. Join me again when Yael and I come back together for another Israel Forever Live Jew Today. Here is what we must do. We must talk, listen, learn, and stay inspired. Stay strong, everyone. We need it.